very dramatic. Got the little countdown. Five,
Yeah.
4, 3, 2, 1. And then I feel like something amazing is supposed to happen, but it's
And
just
it's
us
just us.
talking.
I feel like I'm at a concert. You know how when you go to a big concert and like on the screen, sometimes they'll do a countdown. So you can count down for when the artist is on stage. And yeah,
Right.
that's what everyone.
Yeah.
It's not a concert. It's, of course it's just as exciting though. So,
Nope, not at all. If you guys are listening to this, you probably wish you were at a concert instead of being here with us. But here you are. We're free, much cheaper than a concert, and you don't even have to leave the comfort of your own home. So that's what we can provide. Um, will it be a life changing experience and a lot of fun with your friends? Probably not, but you know, it's a cheap alternative to the concert. So you know,
yeah.
here we are
Yeah.
every
We
Tuesday.
are.
You can listen to
And we have,
us.
yeah. And we have a fun topic today.
We do have a fun topic today, and yeah, maybe not initially, but yeah,
I think everyone listening to us will get it. I think people will be able to empathize with us.
I think so. So
Yeah.
let's just jump right into it because we're starting a little bit later tonight. So let's knock this thing out. So
Yeah.
Deb, what
Yeah.
is the topic today?
Just getting old as shit. Just getting older.
There we go.
So,
I have a
you don't.
different name for this episode tonight. It's probably not going to be that, but no, it's definitely not going to be that. I have a different name. It's probably a little bit more fun than that. But there you go. That sums up how Deb's feeling.
Getting old as shit. I think people can relate. Yeah.
So, um,
Just,
if you guys listened to last episode, our Easter episode, Deb kind of gave us a little bit of a life update, and it's kind of how we got to this point. But Deb, do you want to explain? You want to explain? Our text conversation earlier is very simple, but I said, hey, what do you want to talk about tonight? And you had a topic ready to go because of what you were doing. So you want to give us a little update?
yeah. So I was at a doctor's appointment for a possible hip replacement. So when he said, "What do you want to talk about tonight?" And I'm like, "What about getting old?" Because I feel old, like this should not be happening at my age, but it is. So yeah, so I have another update with my hip stuff. So if anyone listened to the last episode, and if you didn't, that's okay. Nothing too crazy or exciting, but anyway, I have bad hips. Turns out, I was today years old when I found out I was born with hip dysplasia. And no, they aren't just, happening in dogs. It's a human thing too. All my
Oh,
friends are like,
sorry. Is that normally a dog thing?
um, I mean, it's common in like German shepherds, I guess, and like dogs, but I don't know if that's just because it's more widely talked about in dogs. I don't know, but it is something. It's a common thing, I guess, that you're born with it, and then if you have symptoms early on, you're supposed to get checked at your your checkups when you're little, and then when you get older. But for me, I don't know if someone missed it. My dad was even like, I had no idea you had hip dysplasia. And I was like, well, it's okay. Like, what are you supposed to do? And so, but for some reason now at my age at 36, I'm experiencing symptoms now, but it's almost like it's too late type of thing because I'm experiencing symptoms because arthritis has already set in because of the way the bone is shaped in the socket joint. Anyway, I can go into the anatomy of it, but you can just Google it if you want. So it's a deformity of your hips and like where the ball and socket joint goes in your pelvis. There's less surface. And when there's less surface, it's not in there. It's not stable in there when your hips move around. And that can cause just a lot of things. I won't get into all that. But anyway, so I have hip dysplasia. And then along that, I have arthritis that has set in very badly already, like almost severe.
Wow.
and then I have something called femoral acetabular, I think I said that right, impingement, and I have a small labral tear. So I just have it's like a domino effect that comes with hip dysplasia because I'm so active and my hips aren't supported the way they need to be supported. So it's like a trickle domino effect. But anyway, the doctor today said, you're definitely going to need a hip replacement. The question is when. And, in the meantime, you can get cortisone shots, but I don't see why you can't just go to the hip replacement. You're not too young. Because a different doctor, his take was different. He thought I was too young. thought I could needed to just kind of wait it out and alter my lifestyle with how I exercise or whatever. And I'm like, how do I alter it? It hurts when I walk. So I'm like, so I can't do anything.
Yeah. Did he have any suggestions when he mentioned that?
Just, just low impact exercises like swimming or bicycling. But again, it hurts to walk. So I'm like, so any movement, like it
Sure.
hurts to sit in my car. It hurts to, and this is what makes me feel really old. It hurts when I roll over when I'm sleeping at night. So if I'm on one side, to roll over to the other side, I have to help myself and push myself like up off the bed and help. It's a whole thing.
Hmm.
Like, yeah. So anyway, it's not, yeah, it seems like a simple, we'll just fix your, workouts, which is what, that's a good idea for in the meantime. But because of it's all of those things that's wrong with it, it's just going to decline and get worse. And I'm just delaying the inevitable, is what this doctor said. And he's like, if you're in pain, like, and your quality of life is not what you want it to be, and you're not doing the things that you love, like, why wait? So his advocacy for that like made me feel better, like, okay, I do have options. So anyway, I left the office today with a cortisone shot just to hold me over for now. But then again, I was also told that if I get too many cortisone, like steroid injections for the pain, when you do that to arthritis over time, it actually makes the arthritis worse. So I learned a lot today. So anyway, it's just like a for now until we can schedule like a consultation or a surgery or whatever for you. But for now, that's my hip update. So
Gotcha.
it yeah.
Well, that's good. I mean, obviously the news itself is not good. Um, but at the same time, I know that in our conversation last week, it was not nearly as hopeful because, you said the doctor kind of was like, hey, this is what it is. I don't know what to tell you. And so the fact that you got more information this time and there is a potential way out, right? Seems like a really
Mhm.
good thing. And so, no, I'm glad that you got some good news today. That's great.
Yeah, but it just, yeah. So when you texted me and I'm like, let's talk about getting older because wow. And then I'm literally at the doctor for a hip replacement. So yeah. And then, yeah. So then I made a list, started making a list from there of things that has,
There you go.
things that we feel older and not in my 20s anymore.
Yeah, it's a good topic. Like you text me that and you explain why you text me that. And I thought, no, I think that's a really good topic because, when um, I look at our podcast download analytics, and over the years, we do have kind of a demographic that you would think of.
Mm-hmm.
I think the majority of our demographic is between, I think, 25, or is it 30 and 40? So our age range, but then it kind of dips down like anywhere between, like our next highest group is probably, I don't know, 40 to 50, 40 to 50 to 60, kind of that age. And then there's also a decent group between 25 or 20 and 30 as well. So it's actually a pretty interesting range. And
Mm-hmm.
I really think this topic applies really to anybody. The more I thought about it, it doesn't matter if you're our age. It doesn't matter because basically, our age, we're moving into that place, right? We're kind
Yeah.
of leaving that youthful stage, and we're going into a place where, because like I feel like when people talk about like you hit your 30s and you start feeling that stuff, I never really bought into that. I think
Mm-hmm.
once you start hitting the mid to late is really when you like when that thing's actually true. I think some people are being a little bit dramatic. It's like, oh, you hit 30 and it's like it all falls apart. It's like, I don't think so. I do think when you mid 30s and higher is really when you start feeling some of the effects of that stuff, right? And then we have
Mm-hmm.
people that listen to this podcast that are on the older side, that are older than us by 10, 15 years. And they've been in that state for a little while. And then you have people that are younger than us. They're like, I don't know what you're talking about. And they're like, I know it's coming, but not there yet. And so for all those different reasons, I think it is an interesting topic because um, it's a weird thing. And I think it makes you realize, and I think you get to a certain point, it makes you realize how quickly time flies by. And I've mentioned this before, as far as being a parent and becoming a parent, it really does accelerate the clock on everything. You start noticing how fast things move. You start realizing how quickly time goes by. You realize, man, I feel like we just celebrated Christmas and now we're entering into this whole different season, and then it's Christmas again. Like everything just changes and the perspective changes. And so part of that is because you're getting older. We're getting older,
Yeah.
and you can't slow down. No matter what you do, you can't slow time down. I've heard people
Mm.
say, especially when it comes to sports, father time is undefeated. No one's ever outlasted. Some people, maybe like LeBron James, certain people seem to run a little bit faster with father time for longer. But at the end of the day, like we all get older, and so, um, but there's a lot that goes into that too. You know, not just the negative stuff. Not just the negative stuff. I think there's some fun perspectives that come with that as well. So, you know, all that being said, I'm glad that you brought that topic to the table, even though unfortunately it's something that you're dealing with right now in a more, you know, non-fun way. Still a good
Mhm.
conversation to have for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's just kind of a whole new world, I feel like. In my notes I put the day I turned 36, literally I mean, I might be being dramatic when I say the day of, but I feel like it was that day my body attacked me.
Sure.
Like everything like that could possibly go wrong like went downhill. And so I'm like, this is what it's like to be in the late 30s, I guess.
Yeah.
Once you're 35, you're mid 30s, I think 35, and then I feel like 36. It's probably considered mid 30s, but I'm pushing late 30s now. So anyway, yeah, it's just an interesting topic, and it's something we haven't talked about
Mm-mm.
before. You know, we've been podcasting for how long? When we were in our younger 30s or whatever, and
Yeah.
so
Or
now
probably
that we're getting
right around 30. Pretty close.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
30, 31.
yeah, and totally, there's kids. I say kids because they're younger than us who turn like 28, and they're like, "Oh my god, I'm so old," and I'm like, "Oh, I would love for my body to feel like it was 28 again." Like
Yeah, no,
just that.
you're right. That is the funny thing about, like I said, the age
Yeah,
thing is you hear that at
yeah,
different ages. People say that, and then the people that are older than them, they're like, "You have no idea," and the people that are older than them, like, "You have no idea." It is a funny thing because,
exactly. Oh yeah, and there's people listening who are older than us that are saying right now, they're like, probably yelling at whatever they're listening to, their AirPod or their, you know, in their car, like, you guys are not old, like, shut up. Stop complaining. So yeah, anyone who's older is going to say you have no idea. Oh, I totally agree with that. But for right now, this is what I'm going through. So
sure. Well, but see,
so
that's the funny thing. Sorry, I didn't mean
yeah,
to cut you off. But that's the funny thing about it is like that's always going to happen. Everybody else is going to have that perspective of like, oh, wait until you get to this age, or wait until you get to this age. But the reality of it is, I always have a tough time saying that. The reality of it is that sentence, for whatever reason, my tongue gets tied, and it's like I just forget the English language. But basically, it's one of those things where you feel it no matter what age you're at. You always feel it in that moment, right? You're just gonna feel it, and it's different to every person, but you know you're going to feel it. We probably felt similar ways at 25, that you bump to 30, 35, 40. And like age is a unique thing for everybody, because I don't think everybody experiences it the same way, right? You have some
right,
people that you look at and you're thinking, you hear their age, you're like, oh, you're a liar, there's no way you're that old, you look younger than I do, and you're 60 years old. And then you hear
right,
other people, it's like, that person is 22, and it looks like they've lived some life because they look like they're 55. And so
yeah,
it's age is it's a weird thing, because it's
yeah,
there's not one size fits all, and I think a lot of things go into it, right? And
mhm,
you have some people that, like yourself, who a PE teacher, uh, athlete, trainer, all these things. You love physical fitness. You love physical activity. You're dealing with a bad hip. Someone else may not do any of those things, and
mhm,
won't experience it at the same age, and they're not
right,
in nearly the same kind of shape that you are. You know what I'm saying? So it's like there's so much that goes into it and that affects it. And that's the funny thing too. Like it's not just the number of your age, right? It's a lot of stuff that goes into it, but whatever
yeah,
you're dealing with in life at that specific age affects how you see that age, right?
yeah,
So for some 21-year-olds, they've had a really rough life up until that point, and they are more mature and unfortunately more experienced with a lot of things because they've had to be, because life
yeah,
threw them a lot of curveballs, and then they just had to grow up faster. And we know this. There's some people that are pushing 40 that's like, I don't know if you've ever grown up. I think you're still a child, and not in a fun, like not like a fun loving way, but like when it comes to like actual being an adult, I don't think you've actually hit that point yet. It's a
right.
weird thing. It's a weird thing.
Oh, totally. Well, and like you, and like just like everything you were saying, like everyone hits different things at different times in their lives. It's not going to look the same for everyone, obviously. Like I have a friend who's my age. Well, I'm sorry, she's about to turn 36 actually. And she's already going through menopause. And I did not believe her when she told me. I was like, you're lying.
Yeah.
She's like, no, it's genetic. My mom went through the same thing. So there's lots of things that are like genetic that happen to you, or that you're born with. Like apparently my hip dysplasia. I don't know. Like in there, people are born with certain things, and like it's just, and then that kind of goes against you as you age, and you just experience it way differently. So yeah, it totally looks different for everybody. That's for sure.
So one of
Yeah.
the, because as soon as you text me this idea, I had a bunch of different thoughts that I kind of jotted down really quickly. Let's take the hip thing off the table because that would be the obvious easy answer. But what do you, from your perspective, at 36 years old, which as much as I like to joke that you're a year older than me, uh, you don't seem like 30, 36. Do you get that a lot? Like I feel like you seem like you are younger than that, and I feel like I imagine people probably tell you that.
I get if I were to average what people try to guess my age or whatever or think how old I am, I get like late 20s, like 28
That's
something.
gotta
Sometimes
feel good, right?
yeah. Well, sometimes as young as like, oh my God, I thought you were 24, 25. And I don't know if it's I don't, I'm not right. I'm not trying to say like, oh, I look 24. No, but I think it's just my attitude
Yeah,
and the way I talk and like my spirit, like whatever, like I feel like in my brain, just for like reasons of just being playful and just being silly. Like I feel like I'm 22 still. Like I feel like I don't, feel like I could be immature totally. And I'm just like, you're 30. I have to remind myself, you're 36. You got to be a little more classy, I guess. And I'm like, no, whatever. It's fine. So,
yeah,
which is why I like teaching my high school kids because I can talk crap to them. It's great. Like, it's
sure,
just the best age for me to teach. I love it. But yeah, like I've definitely gotten like, oh, you look younger. But I think it's just the way I carry myself, maybe too. I don't know.
sure,
Um, yeah, I don't feel like I'm getting older, but my body says otherwise.
yeah.
So
So
yeah.
okay, so let's put a pin in
Mhm.
that because I want to get to that whole thing that you just mentioned about like staying playful, staying fun and energetic. So let's put a pin in that because I actually want to get back. I want to touch on that later. But what I was going to say before I derailed myself about what age people guess that you are, if you take the hip thing off the table, what
Mhm.
do you feel is the most difficult part about getting older? Like, what is the thing that you struggle with the most? Because we can say whatever we want, we can have the best
Mhm.
attitude in the world, but I think internally in our quiet times, there's things that we probably don't really enjoy. You might have a positive outlook on life, but there's still those things like when you're laying in bed, it's like this part of getting older kind of sucks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, what would that
Yeah.
be for you?
So yeah, if I'm trying to right now, obviously my hips are the most like central focus point.
Sure.
So I'm trying to focus on that right now because it is I feel like I'm 90 years old the way I have to walk sometimes and the way I have to get out of bed. Anyway, um, I think something that for me has stood out to me the most, my hormones are changing.
Sure.
Like as all of ours do. I don't know if it's just because like females hormones maybe I think change a little more just because like you go through years of being fertile, then you go through years of menopause after that, and so I feel like I said, the day I turned 36, like I feel like my hormones just like flipped a switch. Like I've never felt so moody when it's that time of month ever in my life since I when I finally turned. So basically like just my mindset and the way like I take things now is like has changed. It's interesting. I'm like I feel like I'm more sensitive. Like I hate it. Yeah, so definitely I'm just assuming those are my hormones because also when I like around that time around my birthday, I remember my bot like I got the worst hormonal acne just like
Hmm.
all over like my neck. It looked like I had a disease. It was so weird. It was just on my neck. And I was like, well, cool. Like, what the hell is this? And so
Yeah.
just having to figure out like a way to, fix that's gotten a lot better. I'm taking some natural supplements. I've done when I was younger, I've been acne prone my whole life and I've done like rounds of Accutane. So I'm like, I'm not doing that at
Oh,
36.
really?
Like yeah, so I've done 2 rounds of Accutane when I was younger, and it's not good for you. It helps it in the moment, but it doesn't cure it. Like it's gonna like it will come back because your hormones are all whatever. So anyway, so I found an alternative product that's been working really well, like natural stuff in it, so no chemicals, nothing. I didn't even need a doctor's appointment. You could just get it online. Things that you find like in tea and stuff, like herbal stuff. That's been helping a lot. So anyway, that my hormones, I think, as I age, like are changing drastically. It's crazy.
Man,
Yeah.
interesting. I was I feel like I don't think this is an exaggeration, but I was like one step away from Accutane when I was in
Mm,
middle school. The dermatologist felt like it wasn't necessary. I actually ended up going to a place where they would do like the chemical peels. It wasn't a salon, but it was like a place like that, like one of those cosmetics places. This
mm,
lady would just like put all this stuff on my face, and like that was
mm.
brutal, brutal.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, it was weird. Like the whole process was a little bit tough, and you put that chemical peel on your face, like, ooh, that really burns. But then after you leave
yeah.
there, you feel pretty good. You feel pretty good. But
Did it help it? Did
it
it work?
it did, it did.
Oh,
And I think
nice.
I think I just kind of grew out of it. But I do remember having I took some medicine for a while that the
Yeah.
dermatologist recommended, and yeah,
Yeah.
it's tough. It's tough, but it wasn't quite at the point of Accutane. But I know that was starting to that conversation was starting to be had. Luckily, I'm
Yeah.
glad that I didn't have to because I know that was intense.
It's good. Well, yeah, because like I'll say this, we don't have to focus on Accutane or anything, but like the process to get Accutane, I don't know if you know about it. I don't know that it's changed a lot, but when I took it, you had to have a monthly, to renew your monthly prescription, you had to go into the doctor's office and they had to like make sure you're good. You had to do a quiz online, um, because for it causes severe birth defects
Hmm.
if you get pregnant. So you had to say, as a female, you had to say that you had to say what 2 forms of birth control you're using. Like, I don't know if they still do that, but when I was 19, I had to do that.
Yeah.
And then I had to take a pregnancy test before they confirmed to give me another prescription. Like, that's what they were focused on. They're like, it for sure causes birth defects.
Wow.
So,
It's crazy.
so if it causes a birth defect, that can't be good for you. So
Right.
so I finally got off it for good on my when I was on it on my second round. I think I was 4 or 5 months into it. I started puking out of nowhere. My doctor's like, stop taking it immediately. You're probably getting an ulcer, a stomach ulcer.
Hmm.
Because that, so I'm like, cool. So yeah, so I'm like, I refuse to do that again. I'm not,
Yeah.
the older I get, I can't afford to have any stomach problems because I get acid reflux so fast now. And that's another thing that I was going to go over, like the foods I eat now and stuff. Anyway,
Yeah.
so the natural stuff I'm taking is working pretty well. So
Gotcha.
yeah.
Uh, yeah. No, that makes sense. You know, obviously, I can't speak to the hormonal changes. So I
Uh,
don't have much to
yeah.
add there. Thankfully, for myself, selfishly. Um, but
What about you? What have you noticed?
yeah, I mean,
That's just one of them. We can go back and forth if you want, or however you want to do that. But
yeah, no,
one
I
of
have
them.
a bunch of stuff here. But you know, off the top of my head, for things that are challenging for me, so I think there's two. There's one that's more silly, and then I think there's one that's not quite as silly. But one that's silly, you mentioned it, the types of foods that you eat. There's certain foods, and here's the thing: I've never been like a massive eater. I'm like naturally, I'm not like a big guy, even though I've gained some weight recently. I'm not naturally like a big guy, and I've never been like a massive eater. And I'm not just like just going to town on food like crazy. Like I even like growing up, I don't think I was the like teenage boy that was just like
Mhm.
wrecking my mom and dad's refrigerator, just going through and eating everything in the house. Like I've just never been a big dude, and so I've never been a big eater. But recently, I feel like that's even more so, where the I can overeat very quickly, and
Mhm.
it's a bummer because there's like foods that you really enjoy, and it's like, oh, this is so good, and then I get to the point where I was telling someone this. I think I was telling my sister this the other day. It used to go from like you get really full, kind of uncomfortable, and then there's like a big
Right.
gap between being uncomfortable to be like feeling like you're gonna like be sick. Now I feel like the gap's not that big anymore. Like there's times where I'll eat, I feel pretty full, and if I have like one more bite or two more bites, it's gonna really push me over the edge as far as just not feeling good, which used to not happen. And I could really enjoy some of those foods that I love a lot with a lot more freedom. Can't really do that now. And I think especially like certain greasy foods,
Yeah.
it's it's inviting some problems.
Right.
We'll
Yeah.
place that delicately. It's a problem.
Finisher. Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. Sure.
yeah,
Foods are a big changer. That's for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's more of like a silly one. It's like, okay, dum dum, just eat better. Like, yeah, that's fair enough. Just eat better. Probably something I should be doing anyways, regardless of how
Yeah.
my body reacts to it. But the other one, and I feel like I've said this so many times on this podcast. I said it just a few minutes ago, but
Yeah.
I think the relationship with time and the reality of time and what it looks like and how it feels really messes with me sometimes. Like if I'm honest, I think especially because I'm a parent. Um, it's an interesting thing. I was thinking about this when you text me about this topic.
Yeah.
Time, age, and time is a really interesting thing because, and if we're looking about age specifically, when you're younger, you're just constantly looking forward at what's next. What's the next thing you're going to do? What's the next adventure? What's the next thing in your future? All these dreams and goals that you have, and everything is looking forward. You don't really think about the past that much because you don't have that much of a past. And then in the present, you kind of take it for granted, right? You take the present for granted because you're so focused on the future. And then you skip ahead however many years later, you have more life experience, more things have happened, you've done more things. And
Yeah.
the reality, even at age 35, like myself, the reality of your age and how far in life you've already come, even though I still feel like I'm young, the reality is I'm still 35. And now there's more time to look backwards. Like I think we tend to look back at different things that maybe we regret or things that I wonder if I went this direction instead of that direction, how things would have gone. Or
Yeah.
I wonder what could have been. And we spend time looking backwards at things we can't change. Yet they
Yeah.
still, if we give too much thought to them, it will drive us crazy, even though there's nothing we can do about it. And then
Right.
sometimes, depending on your outlook on life, you look ahead at the future and you think, man, the runway is getting shorter and shorter. And you
Yeah.
start feeling a little bit of anxiety about what's to
Mhm.
come. And because you don't know, there's so many more responsibilities that we have as adults, you look ahead and think there's a lot of uncertainty in the future. And it causes stress and it causes some panic if it's not in check, right? But
Right.
I do think you get to a certain age, and like my age right now, man, the current present moment for me means the world to me. And I've said
Mhm.
it a million times about my kids, like every moment I have with them, even when they're, being challenging or difficult or, they're not listening, at the end of the day, you look back and think, man, I'm glad that I took the time to spend those moments with them because you don't get those moments back and those moments go by so quickly.
Yeah.
And I think the more I go throughout life, the older I get, the more that reality sets in. And
Yeah.
it's weird. It makes you appreciate the moment more and appreciate time more. But it really does mess with me sometimes. Like it bums me out. There's times where it really bums me out because it's like, man, like it really flies by and you
Mhm.
can't stop it. And I think that like my age is a reminder of that, right? Like it feels like yesterday I was graduating from high school. I was playing baseball in high school. And it feels like not too long after that, I was going to college. And now, boom, here I am. Completely different place in life. It's like it's not that long ago, but some days it
Mhm.
feels like it was really long. And then other days it doesn't. It's like sometimes just the whole time, the concept of time and your relationship with it, uh, you know, it messes with me. It feels like it's a deep thought, but it's like, I think just very
Yeah.
simply, the reality of time and age is probably the worst part for me of getting older. Like it changes
Yeah.
your perspective. So, and it's not like I'm walking around like just like doom and gloom all the time, but like there are moments where you're like, it kind of sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I have to let me piggyback off that. I agree because just even things like our parents getting older or people or just family members in general getting older. I called my aunt on the way home from my appointment today. I spoke to my dad and he's like, call your aunt Linda because she's had hip replacements, so just call her. I don't get to talk to her or see her often, and so this is my mom's sister. So I talked to her and it was nice. And, because I was asking her like, well, when did you get them? just questions of that. And she's like, well, let's see, I'm 76 right now. And in my head, I'm like, oh my God, you're 76. And she's kind of like, I feel like I have my mom's genetics in that way, because her spirit, my aunt's spirit, my mom's spirit was super young too. She passed away way too young.
Sure.
But even right now, my aunt, first of all, she does not sound like she's
Yeah.
76. She sounds exactly the same since I've known her my whole life.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what? So anyway, just that I'm like, oh my God, she's 76. But my dad is also 72. So it's like just, and he's great too. I think I got lucky with like just feeling young at spirit, because my dad also seems younger and like looks younger too and stuff. So just my hips are just not so lucky. Don't know where that came from, but yeah, just the concept of like, yeah, time going by, and like, people that we love are getting older too, and just thinking of that. And my dad lately, anytime I go visit him or see him, every time he's like, all right, so if and when something happens to me, here's what happens to like this, the house and this. And I'm like, Dad. And he's like, we got to talk about it. And I'm like, yeah, I know, you're right. Like, but just more and more, he's been having those conversations with me. And I'm just like, I, I don't even want to think about that, but I know, like, it's a smart thing to do, to
Sure.
go over stuff like that. He'll quiz me. He'll be like, "Who's my lawyer again?" And I'm like, "I know who your lawyer is, Dad. I did softball with her daughter growing up. I know who it is." And so he just wants to make sure that I know, things like that. So
Wait, hold
it's
on.
hard.
Did you? Sorry, not to cut you off. Did you say he mentions that right before you leave?
He no, just like during,
Oh, okay. I'm like,
during.
man, because I mean, obviously, you've mentioned where your dad lives compared to where you live now. It's a little bit of a drive. That would be a brutal thing to drop right before you left. Like, by the way, you're a couple hour drive. Think about this on the way home. Like, oh,
Just like, yeah. But my dad's a realist, and I get
sure.
it. He's always like prepared, like he's good at like removing emotion in that manner, and you kind of have to like, just be ready for that. So sometimes I don't want, I don't walk around with a doom or and gloom attitude either, but sometimes my attitude can be morbid, and I don't share this side of me with many people, because it can come across as like not being sensitive to like life in general or whatever. But sometimes I'm like, something could happen to me tomorrow. Like, you just don't know. So I'm just gonna, if I want to do something now, I'm gonna do it, and I'm not gonna wait. Hence the hip replacement. I'm not gonna wait 20 years to get one. What if I get in a car, again, people might be upset for me saying this, but what if I get in a car accident in 5 days? Like, you don't know. You just don't know. And I'm not going to
Right.
spend those, well, I mean, that's extreme, but you get the point. Like, I'm not going to wait. I want to make sure I can live my quality life now, and just, so
Do you
that's all. Yeah.
do you think that people? I mean, that's an interesting thought. I've never heard anybody say that before. Do you think people? Are there people that feel like that mentality is not sensitive towards life? Because I feel like
Mm,
it seems like, I mean, again, it's not like like you said, you're not going around thinking like, oh, something's going to happen this time. Oh, I'm going to work, probably going to get into a car accident. Oh, I made it to school, thank God. I
no,
still have to
yeah.
make it back though. Hopefully I can make it back home. I don't feel like anybody goes through life with that perspective. So I think that's a healthy thing. It's not seen, if you're looking at it, if you're hearing that clearly, what you're saying, I think that's a healthy way of looking at life,
Mhm.
because you could always procrastinate. You can always push something off. You can always say, I'll get to it later. I'll have that conversation later. I'll spend time with my kids later. I'll spend time with my spouse later, boyfriend, girlfriend, family.
Right.
You can do all those different things. But I
Yeah.
think, like you said, you never know what's going to happen day to day. And so there are moments where you don't know if you'll get a second chance to
Mhm.
take that experience, to take that trip, to do
Yeah.
that thing, that adventure. And so I think it's not, for me, it's not doom and gloom. I think it's like it's a good reality check. It's a
Mhm.
good reminder that, hey, this life is incredibly precious. Every single
Yeah.
day you're getting a little, every single second, right? You're getting a little bit older, you're getting a little
Yeah.
bit further down the road in life. And so you just never know. And
Yeah. For sure.
I think you have to take those opportunities when you can get
Mhm.
them. And I think you have to have that mentality going into life, because like you said, you just never know. And it's
Yeah.
just, life is just too precious of a thing. And some people might think, hey, if it's that precious, why don't you try to protect it and keep it safe? Like, there's a balance, right? Like, you got to appreciate life, do what you can, stay healthy so you can prolong that life. But at the same time, you can't live that life like you like, well, I'll do it in 10 years. Man, that's a massive gamble, because you don't know
Yeah.
if 10 years is going to come. In fact, I'll say this, not to this is, we apologize. Our podcast is not nearly, we're usually very silly on this podcast. I feel like this has gotten very deep, but I feel it's important. We only do this when we feel like this is necessary. And I feel like this is a necessary topic today. So if you're like, where's the fun? There's 170 something episodes you can check out that are probably way more fun than this one. But, um, just recently, one of my aunts, um, my aunt Lois, had just recently passed away,
Mm.
and she had battled ALS for 25 years. So I was in sixth grade, I believe, when we found out that she was diagnosed with ALS. And anybody who doesn't know what ALS is, it's a very difficult disease. You basically lose, in simplest terms, you lose all function in your body and your speech, and you're wheelchair bound, and you can't communicate the same way. It's a really difficult thing, and
Yeah.
so you know obviously we're incredibly sad that she just passed away recently. But one of the things that I'll always remember about her, and another thing that's crazy about her whole situation, is because I found out when I was in sixth grade and she was diagnosed. I knew her longer in this state than I did prior to her having this disease. And talking to my dad about it and some different people, the one crazy thing about this whole thing, because you think she could have been incredibly bitter, she could have been incredibly negative, it could have, every single day could have been this massive burden that you were, that was placed on you by this disease, and she could have just been just in a terrible mood, a terrible mindset, a terrible had a terrible just perspective on life, and honestly, understandably so, because that's
Yeah.
not I can't even imagine what that life would be like.
Right.
But one of the most positive people I've ever met in my entire life, and everybody that reached out to my dad and different people in my family, the same thing. They're like, if because she had the ability to email through different technologies, through like what she could look at on the computer, she could email and text. And so she was communicating with people that she went to high school with and college and all these different places. And one guy was like, man, if he told my dad, he's like, man, if I didn't know that she had ALS, there's no way I would have known. I said,
Right.
he's like, because she had such a positive, like,
Yeah.
excitement for life and was just so joyful all the time. There's no way I would have ever known or guessed that she had this debilitating disease. And it's like, man,
Wow.
like I look at that, and I've always looked at that. I'm like, man, if that was her perspective for 25 years, being stuck in a wheelchair and being robbed of so many different things, like who am I to complain when something doesn't go my way, or who am I to complain when something negative
Right.
happens? Because like that, I mean, I can't imagine what that life would have been like. And so, and my whole point being, there was probably a point where she's like, hey, uh, I'll I'll have something, I'll do this thing in 5 years or 10 years. And then before she knew it, she didn't have the opportunity. So you really just never know, not to make that a huge downer, but like you just never know what's going to happen. And so you got to make the most of life.
Yeah. Oh, I totally agree. On my even on my like even on like my Instagram bio, it says like you have one life, live it, or basically like YOLO. You only live once.
Sure.
But it just this is your life, and do what you do, make the most of it. I mean, sometimes people don't know what that looks like, but you'll figure it out, and just I just that's why I was like so much like so determined to get a different answer about my hip. I'm like, I'm not gonna just gonna take this for an answer, because I'm not gonna change everything that I love doing when I think that something could be done. So I think it's important to advocate for yourself. Um, but yeah, just I like how we went into that topic of the whole mindset of just um, just kind of appreciating your life, for what you have, and just don't take days for granted. Don't take people for granted. I try whenever I'm driving. I listen to podcasts a lot, or just some music or something. But sometimes like someone will pop in my head, like my dad or like a friend, and I'll just like I'm gonna call them. Like I just like so I'll just call them if they pop in my mind, because I'm like I feel like I'm thinking about them for a reason. So, and you just never know. You just never know when. Yeah.
Yeah.
You just never know. But going back to my comment about when I when I make comments saying like I don't know what's going to happen to me tomorrow, I don't think people necessarily think I'm being disrespectful to life. I think my friends just hate when I do that. They're like, "Can you not?" So I'm trying to be more sensitive to that because they don't like it because they're like, "We why would you say that?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't want anything to happen to me. Obviously, I'm not going anywhere, but I'm just saying
Sure.
you don't know." So I'm trying to like limit saying that because I don't want to manifest that either. So
Sure.
very yeah.
Well, that's smart. You can say it on a podcast where multiple people will hear it at the same time. So you only have to say it once, but a bunch of people will hear it. Good call.
I'm not gonna say anymore.
That was
Okay,
smart. Good, good.
no more.
You saw
We're
the
gonna
loophole
manifest.
there.
We're gonna manifest a long life, a long healthy life, healthier life.
There you go.
So
There you go. I
yeah.
also want to point out, 'cause I think it's great when people pop up in your head that you give them a call. I've never received a phone call from you over these 5 years. Not a big deal, but apparently,
I do text you when I think of you or the podcast. I do text you. So there's that. There's
okay.
my.
We could go back and see when the last time you texted about the podcast was, but that's fine. It's okay. I know my place.
I think this morning I said, "Is it?" I think I asked. I said, is it guest night or solo night?" I did.
That's yeah. After I asked you if you were recording, so that's fine. Let's move on. Anyways, so um, let's try to swing this back into the
I'm
fun.
getting old. I'm forgetting. I'm getting old.
Oh, another thing.
Right?
um,
Memory.
so like you had touched on earlier, and I said let's put a pin in it. One of the things I think is really important. I love when I see this kind of stuff, especially on Instagram. Like seeing these types of things just makes my day.
Mm-hmm.
I think learning how to have fun, and when I say fun, I think people of any age know how to have fun in the things that they love to do. But I'm talking about like sometimes I think there's moments where you have to do something silly, almost kid like, to remind yourself that hey, your body's getting older, physically you're feeling it more, you have more responsibilities, but at the end of the day there's still this little kid inside of you that wants to be let out at some point. You know what I mean? I get you have things, more serious things that you need to accomplish, but I think there's this kid like quality in all of us that I think needs to see the light of day sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And it might be something incredibly silly. Obviously I think because I'm a parent, there's more opportunities for me where you just do silly stuff with your kids. And I think you hear people say it all the time, but I think it really does help keep me younger. I think my mentality, not that I was like super mature to begin with, but I think having kids definitely helps, just in a natural, everyday kind of way, help me kind of remind myself, hey, you're still a kid at heart. Enjoy life because at the end of the day, this is fun. Kind of like what they say about sports, right? Like you hear sports coaches and different people say, hey, at the end of the day, sports are supposed to be fun. Like let's go out here and have fun. It's competitive, it's intense, but it's a kid's game that you're playing. Get out there and have fun. And I think life's the same thing. Life is the exact same thing to me where yeah, we have responsibilities, we have things that we have to do, we have families that we take care of, we have friends that we that count on us, all of these different things that we're responsible for. But if you can find ways to make life fun, I think that's going to have such a tremendous impact on your mentality. I think it's going to have a tremendous impact on you. I think even physically, I think it's going to have just on your entire well-being, finding ways to be more kid-like throughout life. It doesn't matter if you're 25 or 85. I think when I'm on Instagram, I see a video of some 90-year-old dancing to some hip hop song. It makes me smile. It's like they don't like that music, but they found a way to enjoy and dance to that music. When they're playing games, they're playing sports, and I mean, I saw one lady the other day playing in like an elderly basketball league, and she crossed a guy up. I'm like, oh my gosh, Granny has has handles. This is amazing. I've never seen anything like it. And it's like you could just tell she was having a blast playing basketball. Like I
Yeah,
love that. And
love
so
that.
all that being said,
Yeah.
uh, is there anything that you do that you feel like kind of gets you back into that almost like a kid like space where it helps you stay young, mentally, emotionally, physically?
Yeah, when I line dance, because I there's like 20-year-olds everywhere. There's like And I'm like, yeah, I'm 36, I don't care, whatever. No, blind dancing, there's literally people of all ages out there. But line dancing has been so fun. Um, it's a two-parter. Like it makes me, okay, like with getting older, here's what I love about getting older. I don't care what people think. This is what I, this is a positive. I know we've talked about negative stuff. So,
Sure.
like a positive for me is that I care less and less what people think, at least of me in terms of like, judgment or whatever. Obviously, I want to be a good person and have good character and like be a good friend, but I don't care if I look dumb out there. Like I don't care if it's fun. Like go for it. Like
There you
I
go.
just don't care. I don't really care what I look like. I don't care. Like if I'm comfortable out there in my own skin and I'm comfortable with the dance, like I'm just gonna do it because it's fun. And so that's been something that has been fun. That has given me a little more bounce in my step, a little more confidence too, even, which is circling back again to my hip. That's why I've been so bummed about that because that has affected me dancing. I've had to pop ibuprofen and like take a break and go sit down and be like, oh, that hurts. Like,
Yeah.
certain moves. So yeah. So again, that's why I'm like wanting to take not drastic, but just more of an action on my hips because it's inhibiting, me doing things that I love doing. So, but the line dancing has been so fun. So fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Definitely makes me feel younger. And I don't know that I would do it when I was younger, though. I feel like I would be too scared or like too embarrassed or
Sure.
wouldn't want to try. But for some reason, I like it now. So I just keep doing it. Yeah.
Well, yeah, like you said, I mean, if you have that right mindset, right, where you're just completely free to do it without having any reservations or concern about what
Yeah.
people think, that's way better. Dancing's not fun. I'm not a big dancer. Dancing's not fun if you're concerned about
No, yeah.
what else is going on. Like it becomes incredibly awkward. And I actually
Yeah.
think that's where the lack of fun comes from, right? It's not because, you know, it's you're not good at dancing. I think it's because you're so concerned about what other people are thinking that it
Mhm.
makes it really stressful. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
think that's where the lack of fun comes from. But that's awesome. So hopefully you get that new hip and then you're just out there dancing like crazy.
Doing all the things. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I,
For me, I was trying to think. I mentioned this when I did the solo episode a couple weeks ago. Um, I don't do this very often, but I have a couple of these in the house. I love Nerf guns. I don't care. Oh, you know what else? A slip and slide. I've said this before on this podcast. I like slip and slides. I'm a grown man. I'm 35 years old. I get all that. Don't care. I like slip and slides. And I feel like every summer I roll that bad boy out and I go nuts, just like a little kid. Like I feel like stuff like that makes me feel like youthful, makes me feel like a kid. I know
yeah.
I'm very aware at some point it's not going to go well. It's going to be like a massive car wreck and I'm going to crash. And I'm going to be laying there asking my wife to help me up because I've hurt myself. And she's going to look at me and say, I knew it. It was only a matter of time. I know. But as long as I can do it, I'm going to keep doing it because it just makes me feel, you know,
Yeah.
it makes me feel young. I love doing it. And so that's one thing. But beside the point, Nerf guns. I like Nerf guns. I have a couple in the house. My wife may not be the biggest fan of them. I think she has fun with them, but when she gets hit by a random dart, she's like, I live with a child. Not the two that I had, but the other one that I married. So she's a good sport, but she's like, you're a dum dum. But I do enjoy
Do,
that. A fun
do
little
you
toy.
do you aim at your girls? Do
No, no,
you
no. I'm not a monster.
Nerf gun them?
No, 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 no.
Just your wife.
I'll tell you what. I don't know when the last time you shot a Nerf gun was. Those things are fast.
Yeah, I my nephews every Christmas or every get together. I have let me count 5, 6, now 7 nephews. Well, the seventh is a baby, so he doesn't count, I guess. But they're fast and they're everywhere, and they've now been kicked out to doing it outside. They're not allowed to have them inside anymore. So
See, yeah, probably a good idea. So no, I'm not a monster. I don't shoot Nerf darts at my daughters yet. It will happen one day, but when they're a little older, I won't feel as guilty about it. You know, it did happen one time. I think was this last summer? I think it was last summer. You know where we live, there was a couple of houses down and behind us, and you could hear these like younger boys playing on a trampoline, and they're bouncing. And we were outside playing with our daughters, and all of a sudden we saw like these Nerf darts in our yard, and they were just kind of sticking in the grass. I'm like, where are these coming from? I enjoy Nerf guns. I don't play with them in the backyard. So I'm like, where are these darts coming from? And then pretty soon I realized I see them coming in. And these kids that were a couple of houses down, you could see them jumping up and down on the trampoline. They were shooting darts into my yard. Like,
On purpose?
yeah,
You're like, thanks for the darts, and you're not getting them back.
right. Well, okay, so I didn't do that, but they looked at me and they were like, oh, and they stopped jumping. And they're like, you could hear him say it's like kind of like he saw us. I'm like, hey, I said, hey, do you guys want these back? They're like, what? What do you mean? Hey man, I saw you shooting Nerf darts over here. I said, do you want them back? He's like, yeah, I guess. I said, let me get my Nerf gun. And then all of a sudden, as I was walking back to the house, they're like, he's got a Nerf gun too. He has a Nerf gun too. It like made their day. And so then I was like, with my little Nerf gun, was shooting them back over to them. And they're like, oh, he sent one over the house. I sent a couple on the roof. Not a big deal. Their parents were probably not thrilled, but it's like they're like, oh, they were hyped that I was shooting these Nerf guns back at them. And then I said, then they started shooting it back. Like, hey guys, this is not a war. We're not doing a war here. I'm trying to give you your Nerf guns back. I don't want to get involved in this.
Yeah.
But I wish I could explain. And you can talk to my wife because she's like, you went inside the house. Like, she's like, I know you heard it as you were walking in the house, but she's like, even when you went in the house, like they were so excited that you were going to shoot Nerf guns or Nerf darts back over to them. Like, all right, awesome.
That's so funny.
I'm glad they had a good time. But it's like silly things like that though. It's fun, and I feel like it keeps me younger. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fun. Yeah. Kids are such gaslighters. When you're like, what do you mean? I didn't do it. I swear, I could catch a kid. I could literally watch high school kids throw a water bottle across the gym, and I look at him, go get that. Go get what? You just threw a water. No, I didn't. I saw you. I'm like, stop gaslighting me. Go get it. And then they just kind of
do you say that?
and put yes, I say it because they use that shit. I'll use it back at them. No, these kids gaslight the shit out of me all the time. And so I'm like, no. So for some reason, as soon as I say it, they're like, okay. And then they go get it. And then their friends will be like, yeah, stop gaslighting Miss McCollum. Like, because I don't know. That's just the term, they use those terms now. And so, and it's a thing.
I get it.
I'm like, don't say I didn't see something. I hate when they do that.
Sounds like you have a one to add to the pet peeve list.
I swear.
Ooh, I got a couple pet peeves the other day. I'm ready.
I started on it too.
Let's go. Ready. I'm ready for that.
We'll do another round, and we'll put in the Instagram and have our listeners weigh in again.
I know I did that this time as well. I apologize, everybody. Each week, because we really want to do this, like each episode that Deb and I do like this, we want to get you guys involved as listeners. And each week we've done that. I've waited later and later in the day. So this one, I gave everybody like 3 hours. So we have a few. We have a few, but my bad. It's on me.
I could do something too, and I don't. So
we're trying. Deb's. I have things I'm doing. Deb's dealing with a hip. We got stuff we got to do. Okay, we don't get paid for this. We're trying our best.
Funsies. It keeps us young too.
Exactly. So, what was I gonna say? I can't remember.
It's a great list, though.
What's that?
I would like to hear. I mean, I know obviously we're already recording this without asking our guests, but I would like to hear, like, what makes our people, what other things make people feel like they're getting older, or what other things people are struggling with. I think it's a really good topic in general.
Yeah, for sure. When you guys hear this episode and we start posting clips, let us know. We would love to hear it, and that's what I want to get better with, because I know we have a few people that are awesome when it comes to commenting and support all that stuff. But yeah, hopefully we can continue to develop that and get more people to chat with us. We'll try to create that environment more, because I think that's a fun part of it. And hopefully we can do our part with this podcast to help you guys feel like you're remaining as young as possible. I know I feel like this podcast helps me feel that way, because it's just a fun thing that we get to do and have fun conversations that keeps my mind active, keeps me engaged in fun conversations. So, I did think it was interesting, because you had mentioned one of the things. Again, we look at getting older most of the time as a negative thing, but I do think there's some really cool things that come with getting older and getting up there in age. And one of the things that really hit me is when you get to a certain age, I feel like if like I feel like I would feel really good as I get older if people come to me for advice, not
Hmm.
because I want to just give my opinion to everybody, but like if they're coming to me and they're seeking me out saying, hey, I would love to hear your opinion on this, or I would love to hear your opinion on that. I think that would make me feel really good because in my opinion, in my perspective, I think that's an indicator or a way of someone basically without saying it saying, hey, I appreciate who you are. I appreciate what you've accomplished. I appreciate what you've done in life and how you carry yourself with character and honor and respect. I'm just really impressed by your life. And I would love to gain some of that insight and knowledge that you have. Like, I think that's what someone's saying to you when they reach out to you for advice.
Yeah.
And I think it's a really cool thing. And it's one of the things that comes with age, especially if you are someone who takes, and lives life to the fullest and you are making the most of life and you are, I think, treating people with respect as you've gone throughout your journey and met all these different people. If they see you that way, and they want to basically just get a piece of that knowledge from you or a piece of that wisdom, I think that's a really cool thing. And I think it speaks a lot to the way you've lived your life. And so that's
Yeah.
something that I look forward to. I'm like, man, that would be awesome if people are seeking me out. I look at the people that I reach out to for advice and insight. And when I think about those people as individuals, they are people that I have a tremendous amount of respect for. I have a lot of appreciation for how they've lived their life up until this point, and I want to be more like them. I want to take the best parts of them and apply it to my life. And so I think that's kind of a cool thing that comes with age is like you get to be that for someone if you've lived a life that
Right.
they see as valuable, right? And I think not to make this negative, but I think it would really bum me out if I got to a certain point in life, say I'm in my like 75, 80, and no one's asking me for any kind of insight, any kind of wisdom, any kind of uh, advice, because it would make me look at myself internally and think, man, did I not do enough as I was living this life? Did I not uh, live a life that people thought was worth asking about? Like, I think it's kind of a weird thought, but like it has crossed my mind. Like, I would love to get to that point again, not to say like, hey, I'm the smartest person in the world, but I think just from the perspective of, hey, if people are asking me about this, I must have done something right in these 75, 80 years of life. So yeah, let me pass on what I can to help your guys' life be a little bit better. I think it's just a cool thing.
Yeah, totally. I know that I ask advice from, my close friends and people all the time. A lot of them are older than me. I mean, and some of them, like Kaylin's 10 years younger than me. I'll ask her for advice too, but
Sure.
we just all have different experiences. But yeah, I think that's a huge compliment. And it's like, it's an honor, like the older you get. And if people come to you for advice and it's like, okay, this is what I did when I experienced this at this age. It's just something that you can impart that little wisdom and it makes you feel good for helping someone. And it's just like, it's almost like I wish, we give the advice to people that we wish we would have told our younger selves.
Sure.
So, like, that's the beauty of it too, is just to share that with people.
Yeah, and I think you want to, one at least for me, one of the things I want to avoid is I don't want to be a cautionary tale. You know what I mean? I don't want people to look at me because there's the flip side of that, right? Where people don't ask that person for advice, but other people mention that person's name as a way of saying, hey, this is what it could be if you do X, Y, and Z, and you make the wrong turn. Like,
Yeah.
this person doesn't have good relationships. This person has burnt a lot of bridges. This person has made some bad decisions because maybe their character was not sharp,
Hmm.
right? It was not
Yeah.
there. I don't want to be that person where you look at this person who, in some ways, has almost wasted this all of these years of life because of bad decisions, right? Like, you definitely want to be the kind of person that people go to because, like I said, they see your life as something that's so valuable and something that's worth pursuing, right? Like, you don't want to be, you don't want a bunch of people trying to be exactly who you were because you can't do it. You got to be your own person. But if they see value in what you're doing and how you achieved it,
Yeah.
that's a pretty cool thing, and you get to pass that knowledge down, and it's just another way for your legacy to continue to get passed down as well. Like that idea of legacy has always been a cool thing to me. You and I
Yeah.
used to talk about that quite a bit when we were doing the Character Combine podcast because you hear about legacy all the time in sports and coaches and the legacy they're leaving behind. But um, yeah, like I said, I thought it was just a cool part of getting older. When you can
Yeah.
have some of those conversations, and it's not meant to be a narcissistic thing. It's meant to be like, yeah, if obviously I've done something right up until this point to make people want to have this conversation. And at least they've respected me enough where they feel like there's some value in that. So I think it's a cool thing.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
Yep. Love
Um,
it.
so do you want to read a couple of these responses?
Yeah.
Okay. So basically on Instagram, the question I put out there was, what's something you did as a kid that you miss now that you are older? And I thought that was interesting because it could really be anything. It took me a little while to figure out how to word that because I didn't want it to be very specific. Like, what could you do as a kid that you can't do now? It's like, well, I can't touch my toes. Like, it doesn't have to be that. If that's what you enjoyed, perfect. But I wanted to make it a little bit more broad than that. So a couple of the responses, let me pull this up really quick. I'm having a tough time grabbing it. Hold on. There we go. Okay. So my wife basically said, and I'm going to try to explain this the way she did.
Okay.
The feeling of being finishing a task and
Yeah.
basically like really truly being done with your responsibilities after that, where
Yeah.
Friday night you finish your homework for the weekend, and once you're done with that, you're truly free. And she was saying
Yeah.
now, if she finishes one task, there's always something else to do around the house. There's always another thing that she needs to accomplish. Like as adults, if you are trying to get stuff done, and if you aren't just completely lazy, then there's always like something else that needs to be done. Like you're never truly done. And
Mhm.
she's like, yeah, you just miss that feeling. Like when you're a kid, you finish the homework, you have a free night. The rest of your night
Yeah.
is free. You don't have to worry about anything
Right.
else. I'm like, yeah, that's a great call. I like that one.
Yeah. That's so good. That rings. That rings so true. So the second I walk into my apartment, like I'm like, oh my god, okay, put that dish away to clean this. Why is it I don't even have kids. I don't even have pets. Like I'm just constantly like, okay, this is out still. Why is this out? Like, yeah, it's constant.
All
I
the
believe
time.
it.
Yep.
Yeah.
100%. Let's see. Where's the other one?
I didn't even realize like I know I didn't know you posted because I haven't been on Instagram all day because I've been driving all day. But I see it now and I'm like, dang it. So I don't have any responses because I never reposted. So sorry about that.
No, it's like I said,
I
I
see.
posted it
Yeah.
very late in the game. So
Yeah.
we're trying, everybody. We're going to try to do better. But yeah, didn't give you guys much time this time. But please let us know anyways. Feel free to respond to that post if you want,
Yeah.
and we'll interact with you. It won't make it on the show though.
Yeah.
So our friend Kenny Hill, who he actually posted this from his Patinaed podcast, which I would recommend all of you guys check out, especially if you're a runner, especially if you're interested in mental health and all those different things that Kenny does. Definitely check out his new podcast. He's doing a lot of great things. He's had some great guests as well. So just a quick plug for Kenny, but he said, make friends, which is an interesting one. I didn't really think about that, but it is true, right? Like as a kid, it feels like you're just constantly making friends, meeting new people, and then as you get older, it's kind of one of those things where you hear people talk about. There's a certain point where you don't really make new friends, right? You kind of have your circle. That's kind of it, and it's not something that's as you're not as interested in doing that anymore. Some people are. Some people are like, I just want to make friends all the time, and they're just good at. Like I think of our friend Coach Chris Horner. I'm
Mhm.
guessing he probably makes a friend every single day because that's just his personality. Like, there's certain people that just that's how they live their life. But um, yeah, like I think that is interesting. It's an interesting response from Kenny. I like that one.
Mm. That's a good one. Love it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And let me see. Let me find my other note. Okay, so this is from my brother Jordan, and he says having having it be socially acceptable to watch pro wrestling weekly. That's a good one. That's a very good one because I think wrestling is a weird thing for sure because it's really cool at least for me and I think probably other guys out there. I don't know if girls like our age loved wrestling, but um it was like a lot of fun when you're younger. And then I think you get to that
Yeah.
point where you're not as into it and you're kind of like, it's not, I don't like that I don't like that. And then I feel like for a lot of people, you get to another point where it's like you catch it a little bit on TV and it's like, huh, that's dumb. I'm not interested, but like they keep looking at the TV, kind of like you're still a little bit interested, like that child in you
Yeah.
kind of comes back. And then I feel
Yeah.
like I've met people now, they're like fully back into it at, in their
Yeah.
30s. It's like they're like kids again. They're like, oh, this is the best thing ever. In fact,
Yeah.
Mr. Jordan and I went to WrestleMania. I've gone to that
Oh
one time. I think I went to one wrestling event in my life, but I went to WrestleMania. It was at Levi Stadium where the 49ers play in Santa Clara. And I wasn't sure what to expect. I'm not into wrestling anymore. I appreciate what they do. I think it's crazy the stuff that they do on a weekly basis. It's insane.
gosh.
But I don't watch it anymore. But I'm like, yeah, it would be cool to go. I'm telling you,
Yeah.
they packed that stadium out, and it was
That's
probably one of the
great.
most fun live
Wow.
events that I've been to because the people there are so passionate about cheering for these
Yeah.
wrestlers, and it's just an insane production. So it did bring me back to childhood. It's like I didn't really understand what was going on. I didn't know the wrestlers. But I'm like, this is
Yeah.
an insane event right now. I'm glad we went. So, uh, but yeah,
Nice.
like I said, if you're older, I think there's probably a little bit of a stigma that comes with being a wrestling fan. Uh, if you don't care, you don't care. So
Yeah.
that's how I think you should
Yeah.
live your life. Who cares if people think that's silly? But to Jordan's point, yeah, I think there is a point when you're younger that it is socially acceptable to just watch
Yeah.
wrestling as a kid, and probably not as much as you're an adult. But who cares? You
Who
you
cares?
like you like dudes body slamming each other? Go for it. Just watch it.
That's the beauty of getting older. You just don't care what people think. So
Boom.
there you go.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yep.
There we go. Those are our
Yep.
responses today. So thank you everybody who chimed in. We appreciate it. Like I said, we'll do better moving forward and hopefully getting those questions out to you guys a little quicker. But anyways,
Yeah.
um, did you have any other thoughts about age, getting older, staying young at heart, all of that stuff?
Just do what makes you happy. The older, especially the older you get, because you do have to kind of, I think keeping a younger spirit is healthy in terms of like just you can't take life too seriously. I mean, there are things that need to be done, of course, like in terms of like paying bills and like just being an adult, like just taking care of things and taking care of yourself and like if you have kids or dog animals, being responsible, but also like just take a moment and like try not to take life too seriously and just do something fun. I think that's what I've like come to realize the older I get too.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
could not agree more. So hopefully this whole hip thing gets resolved. Not
Yeah.
resolved. I don't know the best word. There's some answers for you here
Yeah.
quickly that will
Thanks.
you know make life better, so you can enjoy life to the fullest, like we've talked about here, and not have to limp around in pain with a pocket full of ibuprofen the whole time. So um, that being said, if any ibuprofen companies want to sponsor us, Motrin, let us know, because we have a great spokesperson right now. She can speak directly to your product. So
Exactly.
just let us
There you
know.
go.
We're open.
Mhm.
We're open to any sponsorship, mostly. So
Yeah, Big Pharma doesn't need us. They make plenty of money.
I'm just saying, if you okay, so maybe not them, maybe somebody on the side.
Maybe like a hip patch. Is it like an icy cold,
Sure,
icy
that would be
hot
better.
patch?
Yeah, you're right. That would be better. Hip patch. Yeah, icy hot. Connectable podcast brought to you by Tiger Balm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever?
There you
Do
go.
you ever do that biofreeze stuff?
Oh yeah, I like lived off of that when I played softball.
Yeah, I feel you can tell when someone sprays that on themselves. It's like, ooh, someone has
Yep.
biofreeze.
You can smell it,
Yep.
like Bengay, all those things.
Oh yeah. What was your favorite?
Yeah. I think I liked I liked Bengay. I used Bengay when I was younger, and then Biofreeze like when I got to like college.
Okay.
I used Biofreeze a little more. I did get into Tiger Balm. I did that.
Tiger Balm was
I just
nice.
yeah.
I was a Tiger Balm guy. Here's the problem though. Tiger Balm is orange, and it gets your clothes orange. Not great.
Ooh,
So
yeah,
you know
okay.
you do pay the price there, but does it feel good? Yes, it does.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, it's like the
Yeah.
dugout's full of a bunch of old men and women.
If anyone didn't know that we were talking about getting old, you do now because we're talking about Bengay, Biofreeze, and Tiger Balm.
Yeah, 100%. Do you ever? let me just say this one thing before we wrap this thing up. Do you ever think about well, and let's be real. I'm sure you've gotten this before, because if anybody's never seen Deb before on a video podcast, Deb has tattoos on her arm. So I'm sure you've had people reach out to you, or not reach out to you, but talk to you about, like, because I feel like anybody who gets tattoos, especially like a sleeve like yourself, there's always that one person that wants to say, well, what about when you get older? Are you are you still going to want these tattoos? Have you gotten that before? Because I feel like everybody does.
Um, Not so much, just maybe like once or twice.
That's not bad.
People don't really, I think because they're so common now, people are just like whatever. But I feel like a long time ago I would get that comment and I'd be like, so I'm not older right now, so I'm not gonna worry about it.
See, there you go.
So, stop bringing me down, man, is what I would say. Like, I'm gonna get one,
Just
okay.
appreciate the tattoo. Appreciate the artwork right now.
Yeah, I think they were hated more like, 15 years ago, 20 years ago.
Sure.
It's way more socially accepted. My teenage kids at my school have them, like
Sure.
freshmen
Sure.
have them. So it's just like, I think it's more socially acceptable. So no one really talks shit on them
Sure.
publicly, at least
Sure.
that much. So anyway,
No,
yeah,
I was
but
just
I would,
curious. I feel like that's just a
yeah.
common thing for people who get tattoos. But anyways, my main question was going to be: do you ever think about? Uh, and I don't want this. I don't want to bash anybody, but let's be real. I think you look at like how older people dress,
Hmm.
and you just think like some people. I think some older people age when it comes to fashion. They age very gracefully, and then other
Hmm.
people, it's like, man, age hits you like a ton of bricks because you look like you've never put together clothes before in your entire life, and gone outside. So do you ever think about that, like how it's going to be as you get older and like how you're dressing? Because I think about that all the time. Like I don't want to be the old guy, that's wearing like stuff where it's clear like this is an old guy that doesn't know what he's doing. But then also you don't want to be
Yeah.
the person that's trying way too hard where people look at you and think, huh, that person's not dressing like their age. They're trying way too hard. You know what I mean? There's a fine balance between trying too hard
Yeah.
and just not keeping up with any kind of fashion trend at all. So have you ever thought about that?
Yeah. Like even now, at my age, I'm trying to be like, do I want to hop on the baggy jean trend? I don't know. I've hopped on the hair clip trend. You can't see it, but I have a hair clip in my hair. But I'm just like, okay, my generation invented that, so that's okay. I could do that. But like clothes wise, I still don't know. I still have my skinny jeans that I love. So like even now I struggle with it. I'm like, so my motto is like, I'm just gonna wear what's comfortable for me. If I feel good in it and comfortable in it, I don't care. That's all that matters. I don't care if like if I look like I'm older or if I look like I shouldn't be wearing that, like I'm too old to wear it. I'm just gonna wear what feels right for me.
Okay, perfect.
There we go. That's my answer. I do think about that sometimes, and I'm just like, oh, whatever. I will forever be a leggings and skinny jeans girl. I do like the baggy shirt and sweatshirt trend. But that is I'm like, yes, it's comfortable. I love it. So like, I just do. So I just do what makes me feel comfortable.
Okay. I
Yeah.
feel like as you get older, that could be a problem. I feel like
Yeah.
you're gonna be like
True.
the old lady that's walking down the middle of the road wearing, you know,
Crop top.
yeah, exactly. And someone has to like guide her out of the intersection. Like
You never
one of the boobs falls out. It's like, oh no, that old lady, cover her up. That's what's gonna happen.
let me live my life.
There you go. There you go. All right. Well, it's been a good conversation. It's been a not quite
It's
as
good.
long as normal, but still a pretty lengthy conversation. So, um,
Good.
yeah, Deb, where can they follow us on social media?
You guys can follow us on Twitter at Connectable Pod, and all other social media platforms is at Connectable Podcast.
Yep. And then
Boom.
please follow us on and subscribe on your favorite podcast app and YouTube. Subscribe to our channel. And if you wouldn't mind, please head over to Apple Podcasts and give us a 5-star rating and review. We would greatly appreciate it. It helps the show become a little bit more visible to the people that are searching for podcasts. And it just makes us feel good because at the end of the day, we like when people rate and review our show with 5-star ratings and reviews. If you want to give us a 1-star, please refrain. You can leave a mean comment on Instagram. You can leave a mean comment on YouTube. We're fine with that. It's not the first time. But if you could not give us a 1-star rating and review, that would be greatly appreciated because it hurts my feelings. So, anyways, I'm just kidding. It doesn't hurt my feelings, but I don't like seeing the number go down. So, That being said, I think we are done.
Yeah.
And yes, we will have an awesome guest next week, so you don't have to listen to us rant and rave about age or things that we talk about normally. So you can hear someone else that's more interesting than us. So stay tuned for next week, and we will talk to you guys later. See ya.
See ya.
Thanks for watching the show. If you enjoyed that episode, make sure you like it, share it, and hit the subscribe button to get a new episode every week. We'll see you next time on the Connectable podcast.